We are back again, y'all. In the Mind, Season 2, Episode 2. Y'all know what it is. We appreciate y'all joining us. Myself and Nick, as always, and we were hoping to have another guest on this week, but life happens. People have things that pop up, and this week, unfortunately, we don't have a guest. But y'all got us again, right? That's exactly what y'all look forward to. Y'all come here to be with the guys, to hang out, right? To check out what we're thinking about for the week, and to hopefully inspire some thoughts for y'all for this week. So, again, we're here live with episode 2 of season 2. Nick, let's give the people what they want.
Yeah, a little double 2 here. Deuces. Today's going to be a fun one. We are going to be a little bit transparent and reflective today, per usual, but I think a little extra. And hopefully it's insightful. I think it's going to be a shorter episode. We'll see how long it goes. Depends where the conversation goes, but we'll get right into it because we don't have anybody to introduce. You guys already know us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we could. Oh man, I'm shaking this camera. I hope that didn't do. We could intro ourselves again. We could tell the story of how we met, but I don't think we want to bore people with that story probably for the 10th time. So let's. And you know what, Nick? I'm starting to realize something. I think you might be setting me up, dog. I think you might be setting me up somehow because I don't know how it works out. When we don't have a guest, somehow you conjure up these questions and I got to answer them. And I don't know. I'm thinking like, you know what? Maybe Nick is he's baiting me right now. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to have this guest, Mike. Just be prepared for him. And I get prepared and it's like, yeah, nah, dog. We ain't got a guest. It's just me interviewing you again and asking you questions. So, I think I'm starting to catch on. It took me 22 episodes, but I think I'm finally starting to catch you.
He's about to start bringing reverse Uno cards.
Right. Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Oh, I just bought waterproof playing cards. I'm actually very excited about that. That's something
I have those. Game changer. Have those. Been had them.
I've been very into playing games when out, particularly when there's beverages involved and everyone spills all over the cards. I feel like it's a necessity.
Right, man. It's just everything gets ruined. The whole you can't play with them again. They get all flimsy and bent up, and then you know exactly what card somebody has. Yeah.
Yep. You're trying to sell yourself. I'm not going to cheat because I know which card's which. And there you are.
I'm definitely selling. All right, because if that card come around and I get it, I'm like, yeah, I know that's a 7 right there in your hand. All right, yeah, I know what you got right there. I know what you're holding. That's funny.
Oh man! Without further ado, we'll jump in. The first question got for you, Mike, and this will be telling for the theme of the show.
Oh, I guess you gave a little intro. I was gonna say maybe we should give them a little preview of what we have coming. We talked about this would be a little introspective. Yeah. We'll be talking about we're getting a little transparent here, but just so you all have an idea of where this is headed, we're going to be talking about a little bit of rewarding yourself, figuring out how you respond best, whether it's to rewards, criticism, what motivates you, just kind of in that ballpark. So Nick has graciously conjured up a couple questions for us to answer today. So we're gonna get into it, Nick. So let's rock.
Yeah, and with each of the questions, as Mike said, reflective, transparent on our end. I'm going to encourage the same thing out of anybody listening. If you want to, if you can do it with us, go for it. If you want to pause it after I ask a question, fully encourage this. I think this is going to raise some self-awareness, and that awareness can drive any of the change that you want. But we got to know where we're at before we start.
And let me add on to that real fast. Also for somebody who may be leading a team, leading an organization, leading a group, big or small, of people, and want to utilize this could be a really good exercise or tool for you all to tap into, use these questions as a group, as a team. It could even be a relationship, right? It could be a relationship that you use these for, just figuring out how somebody or how your team responds. And drop a little nugget, you might be able to sprinkle these in a date, So hey, for this again, we all about giving free game. We all about giving free game. So all right, so really now, without further ado, Nick, let's jump into it.
Yeah, and I'll circle back to that because that's a great point later. We'll come back to how you can apply this. But question number 1 that I have for you: what do other people do to motivate you?
What do other people do to motivate me? So this one is probably unique, and less talked about or less common. I would imagine. I don't think I've ever heard anybody approach it from this perspective. But for me, what other people do to motivate me is not something that they say, offer, or in I won't say inspire me to do, because I guess that's what motivates me, or that goes with that motivation piece. But it is how hard somebody else works. Seeing somebody else with their back against the wall, or even with ample opportunity in front of them, something nice to fall back into, whatever the case may be, seeing somebody else work hard, knowing that somebody else is like, I'm going to dig in, I'm going to give this all I got and really make this happen. Like, that fires me up. That gets me working hard, because it, without saying it, shows me that someone else values the same level of hard work, even if, like, something as simple as a pickup basketball game, right? Just using sport as an example here. You pick up 3 or 4 random people, you run in 3s or 4s, whatever the gameplay is, and somebody diving on the ground, diving on the floor for a loose ball, right? Somebody else getting gritty, getting down. That gets me fired up. It's like, all right, you're willing to work hard and get into this. I'm gonna respond with that same energy. I'm gonna match your energy here, and we're gonna really make this happen. So that, to me, is probably the biggest thing: finding somebody to match that energy of hustle, hard work, and grit.
Yeah, I love that. There's a guy in our office. I don't know if I've shared this with you. He got a sign for his birthday, and so on his desk, his little sign says, "I match energies, so go ahead and decide how we're going to act."
I like that. Hey, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And you know what? That is, I kind of want to cop that. I kind of want to bite that a little bit. That's hard. That's pretty tough.
Makes you think before you come in all pissed off.
Yeah. Like, all right, we can do this dance if you really want to do it.
And you want to act bored, uninterested? We can do that. That's fine.
Right. We can sit here like 2 bumps on a log, like look at each other, have a very bland conversation. Hey, that's solid. That's real solid.
I'm a little different with that question, to be honest, though. I, to my own dismay, respond really well to rewards and punishments. That's something that'll just get me going still. You tell me I can get actually like $5-10 out of something, I'm like, all right, I'm locked in. Not the healthiest long term, but it does get me to do things, especially if the tasks are a little bit more monotonous. Similar to, and this is part of the inspiration for this idea, sweet treats and treating yourself is a big little movement that people have got going on right now.
Yeah, I need a treat. Right. I need a treat, dog.
I think there's some pros and cons there. But it works. How long does it work for? I don't know. But, it does work. It gets people going. The other thing that really gets me is understanding the value of what it is that we're doing. So if somebody comes to me with a task or a workout, an exercise, something that they want me to get done, either them providing the information for me or me putting together the information myself, and understanding how this fits into longer term goals and things I want to achieve is massive.
I think that's important. Yeah, I think that's good.
Because if somebody comes and gives me a presentation and says, hey, I got to teach for you that I think you should do, I'll be like, nah, I don't want your work, right? But if they came to me and said,
right,
I know you're trying to be a better presenter, I know you're trying to work on tone and transitions, I've got an audience that would really fit your goals of tone and transition, and they pick on that, something that's more big picture for things I'm trying to grow in, I'm locked in, right? I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity. You're right. I should take this teach.
Right. Yeah, I think that plays into, or not plays into, but that pairs perfectly with when people talk about identifying, naming, being specific about a problem, good or bad, that is a threat or a challenge in a good way, like something like that. Let's say it is to take it even deeper, like an addiction that somebody has to overcome. There are so many things. So when you put a name on something like that, it makes it more tangible, and it really ties you into it. And you have to think, all right, well, I identify with this now. So how do I apply myself to it to make it happen, to make it work out? Or how do I disassociate from it if it doesn't fit what I'm looking for right now? That's good. That's good.
Oh. And that kind of leads us into our next prompt. One of our buddies who we'll have on later this season. Just got back from a trip with him and talking about addictions and how people handle them. Not a serious addiction in his case, but big fan of Zins. Doesn't want to be a big fan of Zins and appreciates it when people yell at him for it. So on that note, what styles of punishment, criticism, or reprimanding do you respond best to?
So for me, I'm already hard on myself as it is, because I believe that the standard that I've set for myself many years ago and continue to raise, and that sounds a little contradicting, right? You think that, oh yeah, this is the standard right here. This is what I'm gonna always do no matter what. But I think that as you grow, that standard changes a little bit and it becomes higher. It becomes something that you have to work harder to attain, or just a certain level that you hold yourself to. So I would say, because I'm hard on myself, it isn't necessarily what someone else does. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. We're looking at you right now, Nat.
Cameo decided she wanted to tussle with a bag right now and make a bunch of noise. So anyway,
bag. That bag came at her.
So yeah, because I'm tough on myself right now, I don't think it's anything that anybody will do necessarily. But because my standard is already so high, I think it is when they recognize I'm not living up to my standard and they call me out on it. That's what I respond to well. Like, they know, hey Mike, you're really bluffing right now. You're selling yourself short. You really selling that bag that you said you wanted very, very badly. So what are you going to do to get back to it? This is what you told me you want. How do we figure this out? How do we get back on track? So that's what it is for me in particular. It's not a matter of somebody saying something, somebody threatening with taking something away from me, or I'm not going to give you this. None of that matters a ton to me. It's a matter of, hey, call me out, like hold me accountable to what it is I said I wanted to do, and let's make that happen. That's what I respond to. Somebody who is in my corner. To me, that is a good friend. That is a good brother. And I say brother in the friendly term of someone who is going to be there by my side to challenge me and push me in the right direction.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm similar in that punishments, things like that, don't result in me wanting to do better or increasing the drive to do whatever it is that we're doing. I think for me, I similarly am very hard on myself. So I know what I've messed up. I'm probably pretty cognizant that it went wrong at the very least. And so any information on, hey, this didn't go well, not the most helpful in that moment. What I want to know is if you have a different perspective on why it didn't go wrong and can help me understand what led to it and what could be changed and tweaked, I want to hear that. I also want to like compare and contrast those methods. So, if this is why it didn't go wrong, what would happen if we did it this way? Let's flush that out a little bit, right? Instead of saying, I wouldn't have done that, that's going to piss me off, right? But how would you have done it? Why would you do it that way? Let's hash out the pros and cons of the different things. That's typically how I respond best to it. If you yell at me, if you, withhold something from me, I don't really want to do anything now. That just kind of kills the motivation for me.
Right. It's like, why do you feel like you have so much control over this, and that you holding out or taking something away from me is supposed to have that much of an impact on me? Is what you're holding out for me life or death? Is it really going to make me change what I was going to do anyway, or what I should have been doing? So yeah, I get that whole like holding or dangling something in front of your face or over your head. I resonate with that too.
Yeah. Question 3, slight switch here from question 1. Those two will pair, and then 2 and 4 are going to pair as well. Again, if you're listening, I encourage you guys, especially on these two, you may agree with some of the things that we said there. This one's all you. Mine and Mike's answers aren't going to help that much. So take a moment, think about it. How do you reward and motivate yourself?
So I actually struggle very much so with rewarding myself. I think I was raised with the expectation that rewards come when you do something worth a reward or worth the merit, worth the recognition, and that you're expected to do good, which I partly believe is true. I think we should all strive to achieve and operate at a high level, but we maybe fail to celebrate the smaller wins and things along the way. So for me, I've never been one to, I accomplished step one of 175 steps, right? I'm picking a very arbitrary number here, but I accomplished step one when the big milestone would come at step 12 or something like that. That incremental progress is something that I struggle to recognize. And if I don't see the massive gains of it, then I don't necessarily reward myself. And even when I do achieve that milestone, if it was step 12, do I do anything in particular there, or do I just recognize like, hey, like you made it this far, cool, good for you? So that is probably something I could tackle more and do better at. But I don't know if I have anything in particular or a way in particular that I reward myself. As far as motivation, though, I'm gonna actually add a different take on this because and maybe the two can be tied in together. I try to operate from the stance of discipline versus motivation, because motivation is like a flame or like a roller coaster. It goes up and down. It'll flicker. Sometimes it'll be stronger. That light will burn brighter than others, and sometimes it's very dim and you don't have the motivation to do what it is you say you want to do. Whereas with discipline, I'm locked in and I'm keyed in on what I said I was going to do, and my routine is very tight, and this is how I get after it every single day. Right? This is where I get up in the morning, stretch, go to the gym, go run, come back and eat, sit down, do some work. Like I think I operate from under discipline because discipline feels to me much more stable than relying on motivation. So to answer your question, rewarding myself, I tend to lack in that area. And when it comes to motivation, I try to choose discipline over motivation because motivation can be very, very fleeting. When you don't feel like doing something, like you get caught up in the emotion of it or caught up in the maybe not right now, I'll get to it later on.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that if we take motivation as a commitment,
right,
and the overall energizing towards a task, towards a goal, towards a style of life, discipline kind of fits in. But a lot of times when we talk about how do you get motivated, we aren't pulling on those longer term sources. And so, like ice cream, motivate myself, right? That may work for you, but it's short term, right? You're not gonna do a year-long workout plan by getting ice cream every Tuesday. It's just
right.
As great as it sounds for the first month, eventually I can just get the ice cream, right? We either do that or we stop getting ice cream altogether. You bring up a great point, how you were raised and rewarding when it's reward worthy. Is what I did worth a reward?
Right,
the interesting piece there is if we are our biggest critic, which so many of us are, you're not going to see many things you do as reward worthy.
Hardly ever. Right. Hardly ever.
And when you were talking about that, I was reflecting on it as well. Because same, that incremental progress and that rewarding things along the way. I can think of a lot of occasions where as a group we do that. Your friends point out, hey, we're done. We were building a gazebo today. No lie. I don't know what my job is sometimes.
At work?
Yeah, we found some money in a budget somewhere, and we were like, an outdoor like working space would be sick. So let's get a picnic table, let's get some Adirondack chairs, and let's get a gazebo so that when it's hot in the summer, we got some shade. And if it's, not great weather, you got that too. So we're building like a few $1,000 gazebo, big metal thing, like no joke.
So y'all are not contracting this out. Y'all are actually going to pick up the materials, bring them back, and build this yourselves.
Yeah, they delivered it. Okay. Shout out to Lowe's.
Okay, all right.
Got a sponsor. Nah, but Lowe's delivered it. But we were putting it together. Assembly not included. So
it's like we're building it, right?
But anyway, there's 20 steps to it, and each step's got like 6 different moving pieces connecting random stuff. We're standing on top of the table trying to get this thing up because, it stands above like 6'5", I think is probably the clearance on it. And then you got to build the roof to it above that. We're like, I don't know how we're getting up there. Anyway, we celebrated each step. We'd be like, hey, we're done with step 1. I would never do that alone, right? Like, you're running a workout, you're doing a workout. You're not celebrating after rep 1, right?
Right. No way.
Maybe
in
a group. Hey, we're done with 1, but it's usually sarcastic.
I was about to say that's exactly what it is. Usually it's like, y'all, yeah, we finished 1. We got 6 more reps to go. Let's do this. Yeah, there's no way I'm ever doing that.
But we do it in groups, and it's interesting to contrast the two, even if it is in the sarcastic ways. I feel like that kind of energizes the group. And then with the discipline, we all know I love Kobe, but the whole idea that he made a deal with himself, right? And the deal was made a long time ago. He already signed that.
Right.
And so now it's about being a professional. It's about having the discipline. It's about coming in on your end. That doesn't mean you can't have fun when you're doing it, because I think he had a lot of fun doing what he's doing. But that deal's already been made. It's non-negotiable. Done. In the past, non-negotiable, signed it, agreed to it. That's always interesting to me in the sense of definition of, I would say one of the definitions of grit, but the definition of being a professional as per Julius Erving, actually, a doctor, Dr. J.
Dr. J.
Being a professional is doing the things you love on the days that you don't want to do them.
Yes, exactly right. That's exactly right.
And I think that's, in a nutshell, your idea of discipline, right?
Right. That's very synonymous. Very.
And the more that you can do those little things and push yourself, if it's something you love, to do it even when you don't want to do it. Oh, it's raining outside. Get the run in.
Get up. Go do it. Right. Go do it.
And it's not, don't be a dickhead to yourself doing it, but you find a way to, build the motivation, tie it to your own values, but get out there and you get the run done one way or another in a way that's productive. Again, it's not being a dickhead. It's not, I'm going to get ice cream. Maybe it is one day, but it's not every day I'm going to get ice cream. And so finding ways to motivate yourself. The interesting contrast between question 1 being, how do others motivate you? What do people do to motivate you? And how do you reward or motivate yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Is that if we know what we respond best to with other people, why is that not the same thing we're doing? I didn't
see what you were about to do there, Nick. You caught me with a hook. You caught me off my guard down, dog. Okay.
And so if you're listening along and you answer question 1, if you didn't, go ahead and answer it now. What do people do to motivate you? How do you respond best to people's styles of motivation? And then I want you to actually think about, how do you motivate yourself?
See, what did I tell y'all? I told y'all when this episode first kicked off, right? Nick is baiting people, okay? That's what he's doing out here. The same thing he did in episode 1. If you haven't listened to episode 1, go back and listen to it first of all. And there are a couple questions in there, and we did a little game called More or Less. You think you know more or less than the topic or question that Nick was asking. And Nick is just straight baiting people. That's what I'm starting to think that Nick, he finds some joy in telling people, nah, you're wrong, dog. All right, you're wrong. Just know that, okay? That's what I'm seeing here.
I just want to see where people's brains go, and then provide a little bit of logic and see if we can break some old habits. You know what I mean?
Okay, I like that though. That's a solid way to look at it.
Your habits are wrong. You're just going to get mad and say no, they're not. But if I show you, you might be a little more receptive.
That's facts.
And that leads us to our last question here, right? And so, how do you punish yourself when you don't meet that expectation, Mike?
Ooh.
How do you respond? What do you do in your head, physically? Like, what does that look like?
So I have learned to give myself a lot of grace, man. A lot of grace, because as a young, and I relate everything to athletics because that's where I found or I experienced the most value. And that's where I thought people saw me as the most valuable version of myself. So when it came to punishment, I would have a lot of negative self-talk. That was dumb. Why did you make that decision? Why didn't you do this a different way? Why did you let oh man, I don't know where I want to take that list, but either way. So how do I punish myself?
Mm-hmm.
The most cruel way for me, and cruel may be a strong word, was probably through isolation. That I didn't feel as if I deserved to be in the company of my teammates, of my coaches, of my family, whoever it was, because I had let them down. And that was stuff I was making up in my head was, yeah, I'm no longer valuable. This they don't want to deal with me right now because I didn't perform the way I normally perform, or to the standard that I'm used to performing. So that is
Yeah.
probably the harshest way that I in the past would punish myself, is I'm gonna just remove myself from this situation completely. I'm gonna go over here, be by myself, deal with this myself, sulk in it, and then when I'm ready, I'll come back around.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, and this is what I finally realized after some time of trying to of being reflective, not necessarily trying, but of being reflective and taking a look at this, is that they recognize that I'm human, I mess up,
Yeah.
I'm on a lot. When I'm on, and I'm good, and I have it, and I'm clicking. And the very few times that I am off, and I need a little extra, I need somebody else to step up. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Like I just had a misfire, right? And it happens. Somebody may have more misfires than me. And it's not necessarily about comparing myself to them. But again, like you're human. Like you make mistakes. You're not on 100% all the time. Like it's cool. Let's get back up and keep moving forward. So isolation was probably the biggest one for me.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot. I think isolation is a big one for me. Similar, I've got memories where race didn't go my way. I thought I should have done better
Yeah.
based on my fitness, based on where I just wanted to be, even if my
Mm-hmm.
fitness was
Mm-hmm.
what it was, and I, was consistent with that. You'd find me on this side by myself. Don't want to talk to nobody. Don't want to talk to
Yep.
anybody.
Yep.
Anything. Headphones in, just locked on something. Next day, I'm
Right.
probably just in my room recouping. Even if we had a 24-hour rule where you were allowed to be upset for 24 hours,
Yeah.
take full advantage of that. I would be upset for 24 hours and I would be, in my zone doing
Yeah.
my thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear anything from anybody because, again, I'm already beating myself up enough. And so how I handled it was that isolation, because
Facts.
I also didn't think that I held the same value. I didn't deserve things like that company.
No, that's
Similar to
good.
you as well, I think I've grown a little bit in that, and I'm able to reframe some things, but it's still retroactive. If I don't meet the standard in that moment, and that's something that I care a lot about, I am upset.
Mm-hmm.
I can
Mm-hmm.
reflect and I can do it a lot quicker than I used to be able to
For sure.
and
For sure.
reframe those things. But how I punish myself is still very much the same with that
Yeah.
negative self talk and those things.
Yeah.
That's one that I think is going to be very interesting and segue into next week. So this is our
Mm-hmm.
first official
Yeah, yeah.
transition.
I had a conversation I was going to ask you, but I don't want to distract from what and
Mm-hmm.
how the conversation is going to go next week. I think the quality and the depth of it is going to be very, very strong, very, very strong come next week.
Yeah, and if you guys, so that we'll clue you in a little bit, we want to talk about how you actually get out of this. For lack of better terms, right? When you are beating yourself
Right.
up, when things are going wrong in the moment, what do you do? What are best strategies? What are best practices?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know we talk a lot sports. That's just what comes naturally to us. But this can be a performance at work. This can be a performance in a relationship. This can be a performance
Yep.
as a leader in any context, whether that's parenting of a team, of a, like a sports team or a team at
Yeah.
work, a cohesive
Yep.
unit.
Yep.
This could be your
100%.
rec volleyball league. I don't know. up to you. Whatever you got going on, however you want to apply
what's important to you, exactly.
But we'll save some of that for next week because I think that's huge. And that's going to build on that idea of being a professional too, I think.
Yeah.
What I want to circle back to right now on the topic of expanding this to different domains and how we can apply it is Mike asking at the beginning or mentioning that you could use these in a relationship. You could use these at work. You could use them if you're leading other people and you want to get a feel for that and how they respond best. How are they motivated? How did they respond to punishment or criticism? How do they treat themselves in that? Maybe you have that conversation with them and that's enough. And you can kind of help align how they're talking to themselves and how you're talking to them and what's ideal for them. But there's something I came across in a book. I don't think we've touched on this. If we have, I apologize, but it'll be in a different context. So it'll at least be a little bit spicier. But it's an autonomy audit. More or less, if you want to figure out how much autonomy people are experiencing, and I'm going to define autonomy as endorsement over what they're doing, or buy-in is another good way of saying it, regardless of what it is. How bought in are you to what it is?
Right.
Or you could loosely put that as motivation. It's going to correlate very highly with, more autonomy, higher levels of motivation, more sustainable, stronger motivation. So 4 questions that you can ask, and you can have people rate on a 0 to 10 scale. 0 would be almost none, and 10 being a huge amount. And you can do this anonymously if you're doing it with a team. You do not need each individual person's to calculate a work team, right?
Yeah.
If you want to do a one-on-one with somebody, it won't be anonymous, right? The example he gives is your autonomy scale overall is going to be somewhere between 0 and 40. And so 0, these are his examples. I will not expect any blame or feedback. These are bad examples. I will accept praise and criticism, though. And so from the book, what he says is 0 is a North Korean prison and 40 is Woodstock.
That's crazy to say, North Korean prison. That's wild.
It's a tough one. It was 2013. I don't know if that changes the context. It might have aged well. It might have aged poorly. I'm not socially aware on international conflict or status. That's something I could be better at. Some self-reflection there. But question number 1 is, how much autonomy do you have over your tasks at work? Your main responsibilities and what you do in a given day. And you can change this from work to within the relationship, within school, if you're doing something that's more related to that, within your sport. Switch that word as needed.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is, how much autonomy do you have over your time at work, school, practice, in your sport? For instance, when you arrive, when you leave, and how you allocate your hours each day within that. Or of that in general, right? You know, if you have the choice of putting practice in the morning, afternoon, or evening, that would count for this question. Or if you have your choice of ordering it within the afternoon, that would still count. So just a 0 to 10. Question 3, how much autonomy do you have over your team at work, school, sport, practice, whatever it is, right? That is, to what extent are you able to choose the people with whom you typically collaborate, even in a sport context? Are you able to choose who you are doing that drill with, Or is it you guys are assigned based on XYZ criteria, right? Your work projects, are you picking who you're working with? Or are you assigned who you're working with? And then number 4, how much autonomy do you have over your technique at work, at school, in your relationship? So how do you actually perform the main responsibilities within that? Is it rinse and repeat the same thing every day? And if it is, do you endorse that routine, or do you wish it was different? Do you wish there was more variety? Again, 0 to 10 on all those. You'll get a score from 0 to 40. I highly encourage you don't judge this score as good or bad necessarily. I think it's just what it is. And the goal is to bring it up. So if you're at a 27, cool. Try to get to a 32. If you're at a 37, try to get up to that 38, 39. If you're at a 0, 5 is a major improvement still. Right. And you can get that improvement from anywhere. So if you are in a position of leadership or in a position of collaboration in these, So particularly like a relationship or something like that, right? It's not you telling the other person this is what we're going to do. You're going to sit there and talk about with the tasks, the time, the team, the technique. How can we make this number go up?
Yeah. I want to give you a quick shout real fast. I like that you chose the word leadership and collaboration. Right. I don't think I would have chosen those words myself, or at least the collaboration word, because I don't think relationships in any capacity, right? We talk about work relationships, intimate relationships, friendships. Relationships are not seen as collaborations all the time. And so for you to tag them as such, I think that's a really, really powerful framing of relationships and what they're meant to be, right? They're meant to be a collaboration of support, of love, of helping each other grow, of challenging each other. So all those things, I think that was a really, really strong word to use there in this example, or this what's the word I'm looking for, as you use this tool that Nick, the questions that he asked to help figure out kind of like what's happening with your team. Like that's a strong word, Nick. That's a really good word, and I think other people can really learn from that one.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And credit goes to Dan Pink. This is his book. Collaborated a lot with some of the highest level psychologists in the world, renowned guys who have their own multi-100,000 cited theories and stuff like that.
That's good.
So really good stuff. Yeah. And our application piece today to wrap us up is just of those categories: your task, your time, your team, your technique, or in other words, the what is the tasks, the when is the time, the who is the team, and then the how is the technique. Pick one and try to improve that over the next week. So I'll throw it to you, Mike, out of what, when, who, and how. What's something that you want to try to improve this next week?
So I'm going to answer that question, and I'm going to also draw on something else here too. So the what, when, who, and how for me over the next week, it's probably going to be the who. I think that is becoming more and more important as I grow my business, right? I have the what it is I want to accomplish. I have the when. I'm working on it at the when, at least I can say. The how, I think the how is being framed more, or I have that pretty solid, but I'm really missing that who piece. Like, what resources can I draw on? I'm a big, to almost my demise. I'm very reliant on my own powers and my own ability. I can do this myself. I can handle this. Man, I got resources for a reason. Like, we all have resources for a reason. So who is it that I can draw on? And who is it that I can use that are in my corner already to help me accomplish those other things? So that's where I want to draw from this week, and really just not just this week, but moving forward. If I can really capitalize on that, I think I'll experience exponential growth. In this business, in this training business that I'm building. And then I want to double back on some of the things that we talked about earlier. Is how do you motivate yourself? I want us to really think about that one, because that one kind of went over my head. If we can identify how other people motivate us, shouldn't it be pretty self-explanatory? Is that a word? I think so. It should be pretty self-explanatory on how we can motivate ourselves, or what it is, where we draw our motivation from. So I want us to think about, we know how other people motivate us. How do we motivate ourselves? And if that is different than the ways that other people motivate us, why is that? And how can we make those two things work together?
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think you can even package it in a lot of ways together, right? If you're who, if I say who is your favorite coworker in the office, odds are you either got a really good relationship with them, or they're really good at some of these things, right? Like, if I say, who is your favorite teacher growing up, or who is your favorite coach growing up, their behaviors are going to be in line with a lot of this psych research.
And
how they go about motivating individuals is going to be in line with what motivates you best,
right,
more likely than not. And so if you're able to even picture an individual that really impacted, shaped you, ignited some passion, then that's a good place to start too. And
yes,
you
sir.
can start to say, like, how is this affecting those different areas? I think mine is time. I found myself a lot at work not utilizing time super efficiently.
Okay.
And I am very quick to point the finger at, well, it's not my fault. And I can be better about that because there is a level of discipline, as you mentioned, an ability to lock in and take care of what needs to be done. I have the power to do certain things. And sometimes I'm just lazy and would rather point out the flaws elsewhere rather than pick up the slack. So I think trying to take some more control and feel more autonomy in that when area, switching some work, at least asking permission to switch some work and see if I can do things from a different location. Because the biggest thing for me, right, is we don't have internet in the office. And so I don't have internet, I can't do anything. Boss is also fed up with the no internet.
Right.
Yeah. And so if she's also fed up with it, the chances of her allowing me to, find internet, go to the library, whatever it is, are higher. That's kind of what we're supposed to do. It's just not the norm. So taking a little bit more control over that when, and maybe even changing the scenery up some. So
I think that's good.
Sweet. I think at this point, I mean, if you made it this far, right, we appreciate that like. We appreciate the subscribe. Go ahead and hit that for us. I don't have a whole lot else. Just reflect on some of the things that we talked about. Continue this journey of growth with us. I would highly encourage it. It's not required by any means. We're not going to give out homework, but if any of it sounded interesting, you liked any of the points, go ahead, let us know. Appreciate that feedback. If there's anything you didn't like, let us know. Appreciate that criticism as well. Reward when, reward where. If you don't just hype us up, we don't need that glazing. But yeah, I think that's all we got. Anything to add, Mike?
I think that's it. Season 2, episode 2, Double Deuce in the books. So we appreciate y'all rocking with us.
We will catch you next week, and we will dive in more, as we said, with what can you do in the moment when things aren't going right. We're going to welcome 2 very special guests, 2 return guests that we're going to link up. They've never actually met each other before, but I'm excited to see. I think it's going to be some chemistry in that conversation.
For sure.
Catch you guys next week.
Men of Mine, we out.